A special thank you to our special guest today and for raising awareness about this topic. Allow me to mention that overall wars, how are wars done? Those who have military advantages, those are the ones that move forward. But the Armenian-Azerbaijani conflict is very specific. Why? Because deciding on the destiny of Armenians has become an way of leveraging interstate relations. It is one of the means of exercising one's authority. And those who are imprisoned now, the Armenians, and the continuous arrests of those, they're part of their state politics. And this is being as a negotiation tool. That's true. Initially, there were videos regarding the prisoners of war. In the early stages, the Azerbaijani side denied to give specific numbers. For a long time, people were in uncertainty. They did not know whether their family members were POWs, and this was also a way to cause mental and psychological torture. Of course, the ICRC, thanks to their activities, the abduction cases were proven, and those in the later stages, there were also opportunities to have video calls with the prisoners of wars. It was important that they were alive, to understand their health status, to have information about this. And if I try to give figures or numbers, the situation will be like this. In 2020, starting from the 2020s, hundreds of Armenians have been abducted, more than 300. With immense efforts, about 210 prisoners of war have returned. But those that have been returned, they were abducted on conflicts regarding the border, or they were just lost and they were in Azerbaijani lands without finding out, and they were not returned to their motherland for a long time. So returning them to the motherland was not directly related with those prisoners of war related to the war, but also those abducted before the war in peaceful situations who have been arrested or abducted, cases not related to war. So we have 23 Armenians officially are now imprisoned. When we speak about their status, we use different terminology. Most of them we use prisoners of war. We also have hostages. The other term we use is hostages. Because, why do we say that? Because they're returning them to the country is not related with the conflict, but they are using this as a leverage for political gains. And for the 23 persons, we have 5 persons who have been abducted in 2020. The other 18 people was in 2023. The year 2020, when I said 23, this includes the leaders of Artsakh. 8 of them are the leaders of Artsakh. So we have 8 political prisoners on behalf of the previous leadership of Artsakh. And we have 15 persons who are captives related within the activities of Lachin Corridor and military actions context. So this number includes both civilians as well as military servants. So we have both civilians and prisoners of war. So setting these persons free are related both with political, diplomatic, and legal works. There are not a single international mechanism that is fighting against the torture. They have not ever been able to enter and visit the prisoners. Their communication with the external world is only through ICRC. But during the early stages of the conflict, even ICRC's entry was blocked. And many months later, when some prisoners were returned, ICRC had never ever visited them. We have such cases as well. About other international bodies, the situation improved slightly, that these visits are taking place now. These are regular, nevertheless, their frequency cannot prevent any torture. Speaking about ill treatment and torture and this mechanism, the legal support is of paramount importance. The lawyers also are doing what they can. They are the links that can identify ill treatment, torture. They can raise these issues to advocacy bodies. And so from this perspective, the Armenians there are vulnerable, extremely vulnerable, because regardless of what the lawyers, they do not have independent lawyers. But those lawyers who have been licensed in Azerbaijan and an environment where it is full of fear, those, especially the public defender's office, what can they do? They are unable to provide any legal services. So their participation, all this is just formally. Aside from one Armenian, all the others have public defenders. That's all. And those who have been returned to their motherland, when we meet with them, they come to prove again that their meeting with the lawyers were just formal. They have not visited them. They have not discussed the cases. Sometimes whenever the observers and the proxies have seen their lawyers in the court for the first time. So this practice is even worse than any other. And they have been ill-treated in the presence of the lawyers. So the special observers, they have also been part of the overall politics of the state, and they have treated the Armenians, they have shown ill treatment to them and torture. We have had numerous meetings with those prisoners of wars which have been returned to Armenia about how they have been treated, those who have been repatriated. We have paid special attention to the vulnerable groups. And there's a very interesting pattern that even if you have a few of the vulnerable characteristics, such as age and gender, they have not been given special protection measures. So they have been ill-treated with the same intensity, not being military servants, let's say being women, and even if they have been elderly. So even these three vulnerability characteristics have not changed anything. Those who have not even been part of the war do not have any military advantages, and they could not give any value to the military actions. They even weren't protected against ill treatment and torture, which clearly shows Armenophobic actions, that we have deeply rooted systemic Armenophobic policies that are being implemented. They have been mass violence, have been organized both physically and mentally. Just to understand the physical violence, I can just say that people have died during the violence. We have cases where the regular beatings and violence and torture, as a result of this, a person has just died in a closed area, just died because how severe the violence was. And this was as a result of the violence. This was not that they have targetedly been shot. They have merely been because of the severity of the torture and the violence. About the psychological violence and abuse, this has also been used, of course, throughout the whole process. one of them, they have shown the other prisoners how they are killing others. They're putting them in a situation where the person truly understands that how high is the threat of him or herself being killed, where they have forced them to dig their own graveyard, where in the tomb where he was going to be buried alive. We're not speaking about separate cases, one or two, taking into account their personal interests, no? But the humiliation that has occurred, that has also been there. They have forced, they have degraded and humiliated the persons to conduct such actions as kissing the Azerbaijani flag, or making statements against their own beliefs. Forcibly, they have been forced to make such statements. We have also had cases related to religion. These people have been specially tortured who have identified their Christian values or items if they had crosses on them, or they have tattoos. Tattoos directly has resulted in burning the people. They've burned different parts of the body to destroy the tattoos on the body. If they are religious symbolic tattoos, we understand that why this has been done. We have clearly proven cases when they are forced to learn Azerbaijani or to read books which have one-sided policies about Armenian-Azerbaijani relations. For instance, about Armenian terrorists, they have been books and they have forced the prisoners to read them. But these are just surface level manifestations, and for very obvious reasons we are not following up these, because we have such other gross violations that we need to follow up. About the ICRC, they are continuing their activities. Nevertheless, not all of them are using their rights during the visitations. This was a topic of discussion in the media as well, that many Armenians are refusing to make a phone call or for video calls. They are refusing their right. There's the theoretical right, but they are refusing their right. I believe that there is psychological and physical threats. They believe that not to communicate, not to share chaotic information and information, not to share information that might raise levels of anxiety and much more. And of course, there are suicidal attempts as well, which are extremely concerning. And in this moral psychological state, these persons, they also refuse to contact their families.